A ball in hell. Sarah rushed through the bustling streets of New York City, her heart pounding in her chest as she glanced at her watch. The portal to hell would open at midnight, and she couldn't afford to be late. She had made a deal with the devil, and now it was time to fulfill her end of the bargain. As she hurried back to her apartment, Sarah's mind raced with thoughts of what awaited her. She had agreed to attend a ball in hell, the only living soul among a sea of sinful spirits. The mere thought of it sent shivers down her spine, but she knew she had to do it for the sake of her one true love, Michael. Michael had been taken from her too soon, struck down by a drunk driver on his way home from work. In her grief, Sarah had turned to the occult, desperate to find a way to bring him back. That's when the devil had appeared to her, offering a chance to see Michael again in exchange for her attendance at the ball.
Why me?
Sarah wondered aloud as she stood in front of her closet.
What does the devil want with a living soul at his ball? And why am I the one he chose?
She selected a shimmering red dress that clung to her curves, paired it with a pair of black stilettos and a delicate silver necklace that Michael had given her on their first anniversary. As she looked at herself in the mirror, she couldn't help but feel a sense of unease.
Something isn't right.
She muttered to herself.
There's more to this than the devil is letting on. But what choice do I have? I have to see Michael again, no matter the cost.
As the clock struck midnight, Sarah felt a sudden chill in the air. A swirling vortex appeared in the center of her living room, and she knew it was time. Taking a deep breath, she stepped through the portal and found herself standing in the heart of hell. The heat was oppressive, and the air was thick with the stench of sulfur and decay. Sarah felt her lungs burning with every breath, but she forced herself to keep moving forward. She had a job to do, and she couldn't let the devil down. As she made her way through the twisting corridors of hell, Sarah couldn't help but marvel at the twisted beauty of it all. The walls were adorned with intricate carvings of tortured souls, their faces contorted in agony. The floor beneath her feet was slick with blood, and the air was filled with the sound of distant screams.
What is this place?
Sarah whispered to herself.
And what kind of twisted mind could create such a nightmare?
Finally, she arrived at the grand ballroom, where the spirits of the damned were gathered for the festivities. Sarah felt a wave of terror wash over her as she took in the sight of the ghostly figures, their faces twisted into grotesque masks of sin and depravity. But she steeled herself and stepped forward, ready to greet the guests as the devil had instructed. She moved through the crowd, her heart racing as she felt the icy touch of the spirits on her skin. Some of them leered at her, their eyes filled with hunger and desire, while others simply stared at her with a blank, soulless gaze. As the night wore on, Sarah found herself drawn into the twisted world of the damned. She danced with the spirits, their cold hands gripping her waist as they spun her around the room. She listened to their stories, tales of sin and redemption, of love and loss, of hope and despair. "Why are you here?" one spirit whispered to her. "You don't belong among the damned."
I made a deal.
Sarah replied, her voice trembling.
I'm here to see my love again.
The spirit laughed, a cold, hollow sound that sent shivers down Sarah's spine. "Foolish girl," it hissed. "The devil always gets his due. You'll pay for your bargain one way or another." And through it all, she couldn't shake the feeling that she was being watched. She could feel the devil's eyes on her, boring into her soul with an intensity that made her skin crawl. She knew that he was testing her, waiting to see if she would break under the weight of the horrors she witnessed.
What do you want from me?
Sarah demanded, her voice echoing through the ballroom.
Why did you choose me for this twisted game?
But the devil merely smiled, his eyes glinting with malice. All in good time, my dear. All in good time. As the first light of dawn began to creep over the horizon, Sarah felt a sudden shift in the air. The spirits began to fade away, their forms dissolving into mist as the portal back to the land of the living opened once more. Sarah stepped through, her body trembling with exhaustion, and her mind reeling from all that she had seen and experienced. But as she emerged back into her apartment, she knew that she had passed the devil's test. She had proven herself worthy of his bargain, and now it was time to claim her reward. With a heavy heart, Sarah made her way to the cemetery where Michael was buried. She knelt beside his grave, tears streaming down her face as she whispered his name. And then, as if by magic, she felt a gentle hand on her shoulder. She turned, and there he was, standing before her with a soft smile on his face. Michael, her beloved, returned to her at last. Sarah threw herself into his arms, sobbing with joy and relief as she held him close. But even as she reveled in the warmth of his embrace, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. There was a coldness to Michael's touch, a hollowness to his eyes that she had never seen before.
Michael,
she whispered, her voice trembling.
is it really you?
And then, with a sinking feeling of dread, Sarah realized the truth. The man standing before her was not her Michael, but a twisted version of him. A soulless shell created by the devil to torment her for all eternity. Sarah screamed, her voice echoing through the empty cemetery as she realized the true cost of her bargain. She had sold her soul for a chance to see her love again, but in doing so she had condemned herself to an eternity of suffering and despair.
Why?
She sobbed, her body shaking with grief and rage.
Why would you do this to me?
As the false Michael began to laugh, his voice cold and cruel, Sarah felt the last shred of hope drain from her body. She had danced with the devil, and now she would pay the price, forever trapped in a nightmare of her own making. You should have known better, my dear, the devil's voice whispered in her ear. Love is a weakness, and weakness has no place in hell. And so Sarah resigned herself to her fate. A lost soul doomed to wander the halls of hell for all eternity, forever haunted by the memory of the love she had lost and the price she had paid to get it back. But even as she surrendered to despair, a small part of her couldn't help but wonder if there was still a way out. A way to break free from the devil's grasp and find her way back to the light. Only time would tell, and in hell time was the one thing Sarah had in abundance. So she wandered on, a lost soul in search of redemption, forever haunted by the mystery of her own damnation. Days turned into weeks and weeks into months as Sarah navigated the twisted landscape of hell. She encountered all manner of tortured souls, each with their own tragic tale to tell. Some had been condemned for their sins, others for their weaknesses, but all were united in their suffering. Sarah listened to their stories, offering what comfort she could, even as she struggled with her own despair. She couldn't help but feel a kinship with these lost souls, for she too had been tricked by the devil's promises. But as time wore on, Sarah began to notice something strange. The spirits she encountered seemed to be changing, their features shifting and warping in ways that defied explanation. At first, she thought it was just a trick of the light, but soon she couldn't deny the truth. The spirits were becoming more like her, their faces and bodies taking on a human-like appearance. And with each passing day, Sarah felt herself changing too, her own form becoming more ethereal and ghostly.
What's happening to me?
She whispered to herself, her voice echoing through the empty corridors of hell. And then one day she found herself face to face with the devil himself. He stood before her, his eyes glinting with malice, his lips curled into a cruel smile. "You're becoming one of us, my dear," he purred, his voice dripping with false sympathy. "Your soul is being consumed by the darkness of hell, and soon you'll be just another lost spirit, doomed to wander these halls for all eternity." Sarah felt a surge of panic rising in her chest, but she forced herself to stay calm. She had come too far to give up now, and she wasn't about to let the devil win.
No.
She said, her voice steady and strong.
I won't let that happen. I'll find a way out of here, even if it takes me 1,000 years.
The devil laughed, a cold, cruel sound that sent shivers down Sarah's spine. "You're a foolish girl," he sneered. "There is no escape from hell, no matter how hard you try. You'll be mine forever, and there's nothing you can do about it." But Sarah refused to believe him. She had come too far, suffered too much to give up now. And so she set out on a new journey, a quest to find a way out of hell and back to the land of the living. She searched high and low, braving the darkest corners of the underworld in her quest for freedom. She encountered all manner of demons and monsters, each more terrifying than the last, but still she pressed on, driven by a fierce determination to escape her fate. And then one day she found it. A small, hidden portal tucked away in a forgotten corner of hell. It was barely big enough for a person to squeeze through, but Sarah knew it was her only chance. She took a deep breath, steeling herself for whatever lay on the other side, and stepped through the portal. For a moment, everything went black, and Sarah felt a rush of cold air against her skin. And then, she was back in the land of the living, standing in the middle of a crowded street in New York City. The sun was shining and the air was filled with the sounds of honking horns and chattering pedestrians. Sarah looked down at herself, hardly daring to believe it was real. But there she was, flesh and blood once more, her soul restored to its rightful place. She took a step forward, her heart pounding with excitement and relief. She had done it. She had escaped from hell, and now she was free to live her life once more. But even as she reveled in her newfound freedom, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that something was still wrong. The world around her felt different somehow, as if everything had shifted ever so slightly while she was gone. And then she saw him, Michael, standing on the other side of the street, his eyes locked on hers. Sarah's heart leapt with joy, and she started to run towards him, her arms outstretched. But as she drew closer, she realized that something was wrong. Michael's face was twisted into a cruel sneer, his eyes glinting with malice. And then, with a sinking feeling of dread, Sarah realized the truth. She hadn't escaped from hell at all. The portal had been a trick, a cruel joke played by the devil himself. And now she was trapped in a new kind of nightmare, one where the man she loved was nothing more than a twisted reflection of his former self. Sarah screamed, her voice echoing through the crowded streets as she realized the true extent of her damnation. She had been played for a fool, tricked into believing that she could escape her fate. And now she was doomed to wander the earth as a lost soul, forever haunted by the memory of the love she had lost and the price she had paid to get it back.
Why?
She sobbed, her body shaking with grief and rage.
Why would you do this to me?
But the devil merely smiled, his eyes glinting with malice. "Because I can, my dear," he purred. "Because I can." Years passed, and Sarah wandered the earth, a lost soul in search of redemption. She watched as the world changed around her, as empires rose and fell, as wars were fought and won. But through it all, she remained the same, a ghost trapped in a never-ending nightmare. She saw the faces of those she had loved, twisted and distorted by the devil's cruel magic, and she knew that she would never be free. And yet, even in her darkest moments, Sarah refused to give up hope. She clung to the belief that somewhere, somehow, there was still a way out, a way to break free from the devil's grasp and find her way back to the light. She searched high and low, braving the darkest corners of the world in her quest for salvation. She encountered all manner of strange and terrifying creatures, each more twisted than the last, but still she pressed on, driven by a fierce determination to reclaim her soul. And then one day she found it, a small hidden temple tucked away in the mountains of Tibet. It was said to be a place of great power, a sanctuary where lost souls could find redemption. Sarah entered the temple, her heart pounding with anticipation. Inside she found a group of monks, their faces lined with wisdom and compassion. They welcomed her with open arms, offering her shelter and guidance in her quest for salvation. For months Sarah studied with the monks, learning the secrets of their ancient wisdom. She meditated for hours on end, seeking to purge her soul of the darkness that had consumed it for so long. And slowly, bit by bit, she began to feel a change within herself. The weight of her guilt and despair began to lift, replaced by a sense of peace and purpose that she had never known before. And then, one day, the head monk approached her, his eyes shining with a strange light. "You have done well, my child," he said, his voice soft and gentle. "You have faced your demons and emerged stronger for it. And now it is time for you to face the final test." He led her to a small, hidden chamber deep within the heart of the temple. Inside, Sarah found a mirror, its surface shimmering with an otherworldly light. "Look into the mirror," the monk said, his voice barely above a whisper. "Look into the depths of your soul and face the truth of who you are." Sarah took a deep breath, steeling herself for whatever lay ahead. And then she looked into the mirror, and everything changed. She saw herself, not as she was now, but as she had been before the devil had stolen her soul. She saw the love and light that had once filled her heart, the joy and wonder that had made her feel truly alive. And in that moment, Sarah knew that she was free. The darkness that had consumed her for so long was gone, banished by the power of her own inner light. She emerged from the temple, her heart filled with a sense of peace and purpose that she had never known before. And as she stepped out into the world once more, she knew that she was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. For she had danced with the devil and she had emerged stronger for it. She had faced her demons and emerged victorious, a true warrior of the light. And now she knew that nothing could stop her. Not the devil, not the darkness, not even death itself. For she had found the true power within herself, and nothing could ever take that away from her again. As Sarah walked out into the world, she knew that her journey was far from over. There would be more challenges to face, more demons to conquer, more lost souls to save. But she was ready for it all. For she had been to hell and back, and she had emerged stronger and wiser for it. She had learned the true meaning of love and sacrifice, and she knew that nothing could ever break her spirit again. And so she set out into the world, a beacon of hope and light in a sea of darkness. She would wander the earth for all eternity, seeking out those who were lost and offering them the same chance at redemption that she had been given. For in the end, that was all that mattered. Not the power or the glory, not the riches or the fame, but the simple act of reaching out to another soul in need and offering them a hand in their darkest hour. And as Sarah walked on, her heart filled with a sense of purpose and determination, she knew that she had finally found her true calling. She had danced with the devil, and she had emerged a true warrior of the light. To be continued.